Welcome to the second webinar in a series of 3 on the topic of virtual direct education for CalFresh Healthy Living during COVID-19. This is a re-recording of our session. So I want to start off by thanking you for taking the time to join us today and introducing who we have on this webinar. My name is Danielle Boulay. I'm the training manager at Leah's Pantry, and I'm joined by Anna Ng, our registered dietitian.
Hello.
This webinar is funded by the CalFresh Healthy Living Program. Thank you, as always, for your partnership in this work. So similar to last week, while we'll use some acronyms and terms specific to CalFresh Healthy Living, which is what we call SNAP-Ed in California, we believe that information in this webinar is really applicable to anyone running virtual direct ed sessions. So here's an overview of the 3 webinars within this series. Last week, we completed our first webinar, which was really focused on planning. Today, we'll focus on marketing and promotion, and then next week, we will focus on implementation. So we received a lot of good questions and helpful ideas during last week's webinar. As a result, since we received so many questions, and we'll likely receive more today and next week, we're going to create and share a Q&A Google document that compiles all the questions that we've received and will provide some answers as well. And we're also going to create a private Facebook group so we can continue to learn with one another, and this can be a place to share your story and ask questions of the group. And we'll share both of these resources after the webinar series ends next week. So today's focus is to think about how we can market our classes for the highest and most engaged attendance. Today, we will start off by very briefly introducing Leah's Pantry. Then we'll walk through the components of virtual direct ed marketing plan. Next, we'll offer some specific examples and resources for school settings and older adult populations. And last but surely not least, we will hear Jocelyn Farrell and Catholic Charities story, and they're from the Diocese of Santa Rosa. And we'll also hear from Danielle Hamilton from Fresh Approach. So both of these partners have done such a stellar job with marketing and promotion, so we're really excited to hear their stories. Great. So since this is a recording, we're going to do things a little differently. We want you to take off your work hat for a second and think about what kind of marketing would get you to attend a virtual event in your free time. This could be hypothetical or marketing that actually worked and encouraged you to attend a non-work event. So our question to you is, how did or how could the marketing or promotion draw you in? Some things you can think about are promotional materials you saw, descriptions you read, who promoted it, or the platform it was promoted on. So take a second to either write down or just think about what marketing tactics drew you in. Great. So some of the ideas we heard during the live webinar included information coming from a trusted source, catchy promotional materials, having certain topics marketed that they were just really interested in participating in. Anna, do you remember any other ones?
Someone mentioned incentives, of course, and
Yep.
colorful promo images.
Oh, free. People also said something was free. Oh, and also the convenience of just being able to do all these events from home. So you didn't have to drive anywhere. You could just participate at home. So those were the few things that came up during last week's webinar. And whatever you thought about as you watch this recording, I'd encourage you to keep these things in mind throughout this webinar. So before we jump into the content, I'm going to provide a very quick overview of Leah's Pantry. The organization was founded in San Francisco in 2006, and our mission is to improve the health, wellness, and resilience of communities through trauma-informed nutrition security. We have three basic strategies. First, we facilitate direct implementation of products and programs in communities. Second, we work with organizations to build capacity to integrate effective nutrition support. Last, we expand the frame of public health nutrition and food security, often leading to changes at the policy and systems level. And we do have one exciting announcement to make that may be relevant for some of you. Last week, CalFresh Healthy Living approved a new group of lesson plans and materials for Food Smarts that focuses on food waste reduction. This series was developed in partnership from Fresh Approach and the San Mateo Office of Sustainability and includes lesson plans and participant workbooks in English, Spanish, and Chinese. The sessions have been evaluated for single session delivery in addition to the 3-week series. So look out for a Food Smarts for Waste Reduction facilitator training in July. And Danielle Hamilton from Fresh Approach, who will share her story today, will talk about the virtual delivery of this curriculum over the past few months. So let's dive into the content now. Similar to last week and the planning components we shared, for this week, we've identified the key components of a virtual direct ed marketing plan. During the first webinar, we covered the first 2 bullets, audience and audience needs. This week, we'll continue with marketing channels, how to motivate people to attend, implementation and data collection, along with getting organized, so setting goals, roles and responsibilities, and a timeline. Last week, we heard frustration from many of you about lack of internet or computer access among your potential program participants. Unfortunately, virtual direct ed is not a perfect opportunity for all CalFresh Healthy Living participants. But we've also had years of frustration about low attendance at some sites for in-person education, because that's not a perfect fit for everyone either. So we suggest trying your best to be inclusive, but accepting that some folks will not participate because they're not able to or because they are just not interested. So let's start with marketing channels. The most obvious place to start is by leveraging your own social media audience and email lists. It's important to understand how your organization's social media framework and email lists are set up. Will these networks reach your desired audience? Also, do you have access to these platforms either directly or through a marketing team? And what's the process of posting to social media within your organization? You may have access to marketing professionals or you may be doing it alone. Either way, take stock of your assets. If your organization collects participant emails, are they organized in a way that will help you target your outreach? For example, if you can pull emails from a senior meal program, you will be able to create and market programming specifically for older adults. One way to promote classes outside of your own network is through partnerships with other organizations. There are 2 primary partnership buckets that we've identified. The first being programmatic partnerships. So if your organization runs CalFresh Healthy Living classes at different sites in your county, these sites may be interested in hosting virtual classes for their clients. Last week, we discussed high-touch sites as good candidates for this type of class because they may have an easier time communicating with participants during shelter-in-place orders. Next week, you'll hear from Northern Valley Catholic Social Service about their Food Smarts classes taught over Zoom to clients of a wellness center. And participants for this class were recruited directly by the wellness coordinator at the site. Summer camps are moving online as well. We are planning for a Food Smarts camp with St. Francis Center in LA. So we've held cooking camps there for years in person, and now we're just moving things online. And some sites that may not have initially been interested in hosting virtual classes may feel more prepared to do so now. This is what happened with Anna in San Mateo County. Partners were initially only interested in sharing links to videos, but are now open to hosting Zoom classes, which have the potential for greater impact through interaction and more tailored content. The second type of partnerships are strategic partnerships. If you're interested in recruiting participants directly from the community, consider partnerships with organizations who are trusted and have a wide audience reach among CalFresh Healthy Living eligible participants. Consider libraries, health centers, food pantries, or other organizations who may be grateful to offer free, needed resources to their social media or newsletter audience. Leah's Pantry was recently asked to present our virtual nutrition education offerings to physicians and other healthcare staff at San Francisco General Hospital so that they can promote these resources to patients who are receiving food bags. This is a win-win for everyone because their in-person cooking and wellness classes have unfortunately been cut, and their clients are still seeking nutrition support. And for us, this enables us to market directly to participants. Many of you are involved in different community collaboratives, which are made up of other organizations. Invite collaborative partners to advertise your classes or help connect you with organizations who might be able to do so, and offer to reciprocate marketing classes as well. Another strategic opportunity is to partner with organizations who are offering virtual classes in different content areas. I have an online Zumba instructor in the community promoting a cooking class that I facilitate. We also have a partnership with the UCSD Center for Mindfulness and Compassion. They asked us to contribute mindful cooking and eating classes to complement their other virtual classes. They even handle all of the marketing and promotion, so we just have to create the content and facilitate. So we encourage you to do some research in your community about who else is gaining traction with virtual classes and reach out to see whether they're interested in collaborating. Also, know that not every partnership that may seem strategic to you will be a good fit. We had one close partner of ours decline an invitation to advertise free nutrition classes that also included produce vouchers because they really wanted to keep their messaging very focused on other important opportunities. Also, think hyper-local. Community newspapers or Nextdoor are options. Last week, we heard about Nextdoor from Valeria from Institute for Public Strategies. She really liked the census tract setup, ensuring that marketing efforts are going to eligible participants. Since you have to live in the neighborhood in order to post to Nextdoor, you may have to ask for help. I've asked partners and participants to market a class that I host in a different neighborhood from which I live. Also, don't forget that there are still some opportunities in real life. That's what IRL stands for, in case you didn't know, because I didn't. And those opportunities are increasing right now as things start to open up. Consider posting on community boards, offering flyers at grocery stores, health centers, food distributions, schools, or summer meal sites. Jocelyn from Catholic Charities shared about how she's leveraging this opportunity. Finally, the bring a friend tactic. Encourage the network to build itself by suggesting that participants invite a friend or two. So we've covered some broad partnerships that we've seen. We'd love to know if we are missing any. So take 10 seconds to think about other marketing avenues or partnerships that you've used. Great, so some of the feedback we heard from participants during the live recording or during the live session were we missed churches, farmers markets. I think some people said senior centers. Anna, chime in if there are any others
I
that I missed.
remember, yeah, I remember someone mentioned drive-through
Oh,
area,
yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Uh, like food pantries who are doing drive-through distribution. I can't remember.
Yeah, so there were a lot of ideas, and it highlighted the fact that you know your community best. So just think about all the potential events and opportunities that you might be able to kind of promote events through. Great. So once you've identified your marketing partners, make it easy for them to promote your class. Be sure to tailor promotional materials based on the info you gather about each partner's audience and reach. Define roles and timelines. If flyers can be included in food boxes, make sure you know when they're packing those boxes and when and where they need to be, the flyers need to be dropped off. And finally, send friendly reminders and don't forget to thank them for their time and partnership. So let's spend a minute talking about what to put on those flyers, social media posts, or email blurbs. The work you spent planning will help you curate messages. If you missed last week's webinar, we went over the type of information you should gather before marketing your class. So creating catchy promo materials and descriptions can help draw people in. Anna, can you click on the link for the promo video? We're going to share a promo video that Institute for Public Strategies created. Through her research, Valeria discovered that folks weren't primarily interested in learning about nutrition, which is what we heard from many of you during last week's webinar. And in this video, yes, she does mention nutrition, but she also brings up learning new recipes, portion control, and leveraging the time that folks have at home. And the video itself is visually simple and beautiful. You start off by seeing the rainbow within the blender and watch everything blend together. And for at least me, it's kind of mesmerizing. And Valeria knew that her marketing approach mattered, and that's been really successful for her and her ability to recruit participants. So this relates to our earlier question, what grabs you? Think about what has motivated you to participate in something outside of work, and can some of those marketing tactics work for your direct ed? Next, highlight any accessibility support that you'll be providing, whether it's call-in numbers in addition to online meeting links. Emphasize smartphone-friendly classes, so you don't need a laptop to participate. If you're going to offer technical assistance, be sure to highlight that, along with language capacity and closed captioning if those are offered. If you can, use incentives to sweeten the deal. Some of your budgets may already include nutrition education reinforcement items, or you may have other funding or partnerships that you can leverage. Valeria from IPS delivered Food Smarts workbooks and a bag of groceries to participants. And our food waste reduction classes leverage produce vouchers from Fresh Approach. The next component of a marketing plan is data collection. Satisfaction surveys, even informal, can be a great way to see if you're on the right track and can help shape future promotion and also implementation. If you're unsure of how people learned about the class, that's a good question to ask them. Or you could ask what motivated them to attend. Referral data such as bit.ly links, web analytics, or click-throughs on an email newsletter can be used to review where participant traffic is coming from. And again, make it clear to your participants that you listened. You collected that initial survey data for a reason. Be sure to leverage that as you promote your programming. And finally, stay organized by recording your plan. Include your partnership and participation goals, because sometimes you can affect your partnerships more than participation. So be sure to include process as well as outcome goals. Include roles and responsibilities, so your team and any other teams you'll be working with have a clear sense of those. And we like collaborative documents so that everyone can see them. Also, include a timeline for all activities. A marketing calendar will keep you posting and sharing, which we've noticed that makes a difference in our own class success. And last, debrief, tweak, improve, and keep moving forward. Know that this is a work in progress. Now we're going to offer more specific ideas for 2 groups, K through 12 participants through the schools and older adults. Anna is going to take over now.
Okay, great. Thanks, Danielle, for kicking us off. I'm going to walk through some examples and resources from those 2 different settings Danielle already mentioned, schools and organizations serving older adults. And then we'll hear from our lovely partners. So we're going to start with schools, and please think about any additional ideas or emerging best practices that we don't mention, since this is an important setting for CalFresh Healthy Living. Start from existing relationships. Solid relationships with school admin, teachers, and parent groups will help identify potential program options in schools. Last fall, I worked very closely with the principal at a local school to adjust our food waste curriculum, which was designed for adults, to a class of middle schoolers. I reconnected with her recently, and she was more than happy to promote our virtual classes to not only her student community, but also the entire school district. We immediately noticed a spike in our number of surveys from parents from that school. We also heard a lot of great ideas for schools in last week's webinar. Please check out our Bright Spots PowerPoint for more information. Use recordings as a first step. As many of you mentioned, many teachers are not ready for live classes and may be using different platforms, which can result in implementation challenges. But you can share a short recorded video as a promo for running live direct ed sessions in the fall. It'll provide you an opportunity to practice with lighting, tone, sound, and so on. This is a long view approach. Another successful marketing tip shared by Center for Healthy Communities was to do a live intro, quote unquote, visit to prep teachers and students so they can get a feel for what a session will be like. It also builds excitement for upcoming direct ed. Here are some pictures of Kylie from CHC. It looks like she has a prop and even a dog. That's some good promo. Piggyback your programming into other events. Health Education Council is running live direct ed sessions at virtual assemblies, student and parent support calls. Nevada County is experimenting with virtual health fairs. Even if you can't embed programming, you might be able to use these events for marketing. Public health and social service organizations are trusted sources of information, especially during a pandemic. Make sure to leverage your organization's name, and it might draw people in. Center for Healthy Communities heard a parent say, "Oh my gosh, the CHC is here. That's so cool. Hi." Again, please share any best practices that you've discovered with us, and we'll be sure to review them after. Now, marketing classes to organizations serving older adults necessitates addressing potential challenges with access to digital devices, limited digital literacy, and internet access. However, we might be surprised at the enthusiasm. We already had strong relationships with organizations serving older populations, such as affordable housing sites, libraries, community centers, congregate meal centers, and a few sites were hesitant to offer virtual ed, but most were very receptive to sharing the opportunity. Partners shared information on their websites and social media, such as South San Francisco, who put links to our classes on their Parks and Recs page. Senior co-siders included us in their resource guide of online activities, and we were prepared to share translated flyers, promo images, and a brief description of the virtual programming for easy sharing. Although some partners went the extra mile and designed their own. Partners also shared information through email and newsletters. A good chunk of our participants who heard about our classes heard them through a newsletter from the South San Francisco Library, which worked out really well because it goes directly into the inbox of our target audience. We also found opportunities to distribute physical flyers. San Bruno Senior Center included promo flyers in lunch bags they were delivering to older adults. Mercy housing sites posted flyers in residential common areas, and we're also exploring the idea of a pamphlet with step-by-step instructions. We also leveraged programs doing phone calls. We collaborated with the San Francisco Department of Disability and Aging Services on a citywide wellness check project to call older adults and make referrals to virtual classes as appropriate. This could be a huge opportunity in your community since many older adults may only have a landline or a cell phone as a way to communicate. Some virtual programs include Community Living Campaign. They host classes for chair yoga, writing, dancing. There's a pet social hour. There's tech help, of course, and chats with doctors and more. Participants can join via Zoom or call toll-free and dial in. Covia is a nonprofit that runs community services such as Social Call. This is a program that matches volunteers and older adults throughout the country for weekly phone calls. And matches are based on shared interests or values to create meaningful connections. Well Connected is a community of older adults gathering via phone and web conferences every day for diverse programming touching many topics, including art, history, technology, games, health, and many more. We also made connections with partners offering other types of virtual programs. We're in conversation right now with a community center in San Francisco that runs a program called Senior Vitality. They provide iPads and multilingual technology training via virtual classes to a small group of clients. I'm really hopeful this group might be a good fit for virtual nutrition classes soon. So as you can see, successful marketing and promotion, oh my gosh, I'll need to clear my throat, I'm sorry. Okay, as you can see, successful marketing and promotion couldn't be possible without our partners. So we will hear from them now. Please welcome Jocelyn Farrell from Catholic Charities, Diocese of Santa Rosa. Unfortunately, her introduction got cut, but we were able to capture her story.
Just like a brief overview. So we've been doing mainly around 1 hour single session classes using the Food Smarts curriculum. So far, we've been doing them with Facebook Live, just so that we could reach as large of an audience as possible. But we are considering private Facebook groups. We haven't yet rolled that out, but that is currently in the works. And because it's on Facebook, it is available to the whole general public, but we definitely are trying to target SNAP-Ed eligible populations just in terms of how we advertise and where we get our flyers to and things like that. And during these classes, we want to make it as relevant as possible. And so we're sticking to the Food Smarts curriculum, but we're emphasizing as much as possible different areas around like health and safety or anything that would be more relevant during COVID-19, so that people see like why this message is just as important or more important during this time. And then during our classes, we're also including live demonstrations, mainly cooking demonstrations, but we're also toying with the idea of doing some gardening demonstrations as well. And that's just to make it as interactive as possible, even if it's not, even if it's still through a screen. You can go ahead to the next slide, Anna. So in terms of our planning, honestly, we didn't really plan that much around the like the marketing or anything. Our planning was pretty much like logistically, how do we make this happen? Our space, our kitchen space is kind of funky, where we're not really sure how we'll be able to film 6 feet apart in there. What are people going to want to hear that's different than what they've already heard? How are we going to get people that are, you know, listening in to actually stay for the course of the whole video? So that was, our planning was really focused around that. Honestly, in the beginning, we didn't even consider how to advertise. It was like, let's just get a class going and we'll put it on Facebook and we'll see what happens. But through that, one of the things we learned was that it's best to choose a target audience. As much as we think like, oh, let's try to get as many people as possible. We've gotten the most results when we really target the audience, so that people see your advertisement and recognize that like this class is tailored towards them, rather than saying, here's a class, it's for everyone, you're welcome to join, saying, here's a class, it's for you, here's how it's for you, here's what you will benefit from it. And we've gotten a lot of good results from that. So for example, when we did a class that was directed towards some shelter residents, we have some residents that have recently been released from the hospital but aren't ready, would otherwise be going on the streets and aren't ready for that. So they stay in a shelter for a short term, for a couple weeks or so. And so for that class, we targeted them, and we taught lessons about how to teach, or we taught lessons, sorry, on how to cook without a kitchen, knowing that these are people who they're not going to have access to a kitchen. So there'd be no point in teaching them, here's what you can do on a stove, because they're not going to be using a stove. Or when we advertised to a food distribution, for example, we made recipes specifically using the ingredients that they received that day. And so targeting in that way seemed to got better engagement, I think. Next slide. So as I mentioned, we did do flyers for our food distributions, and that was to let them know that, hey, you're getting these ingredients today, you can tune in tomorrow and learn a new recipe using all the ingredients here, so you won't have to go grocery shopping for anything else. So we've done the flyers just that one time, and then mainly we've done our Facebook page. And so our social media guy, at the beginning of every week, he does a post where he gives a list of all the events that are coming up throughout the course of the week. And so that includes our disaster classes, our census information, things like that. And then he lists the nutrition classes along with that. And I think on the next slide, I think there are some samples of those posts. So on the left, that is one of our flyers. We did it in Spanish and English. And towards the bottom of the flyer, there's it mentions on there that if you watch it live, you'll have the chance to win free prizes. And that was super important just for us because part of CalFresh Healthy Living, we can't get numbers for direct ed if they're watching it later. We really need them to be watching it live so that we can get our numbers. So that was just to get some incentive. Obviously, they can watch it whenever they want. It will be on the Facebook page, but we really wanted people to go on there live. So that was why we put that on there. And then the other one is just a sample post, just giving people a heads up that we would be doing a class that day. Those are our instructors, Christian and Ray. They're pretty well known and well liked among our just the people that have been around Catholic Charities for a while. So just seeing their faces, seeing them excited, I think that in and of itself gets people ready and excited for our classes. And I think on the next slide, there's one other post. So this is a sample of the post that goes at the beginning of the week, sharing what's going to be there for the rest of the week. And I think the main thing that I want to point out about this is taking advantage of the success of other programs. So our disaster preparedness program, for example, that's, we're doing that in 4 different counties. We've done a ton of outreach about that. We've done outreach to various populations, not just SNAP Ed eligible populations, but just across the board in all 4 counties. And so we've had a lot of success there. And so by doing these posts that kind of target or address all of our different classes, I think we're able to reach a much larger audience because we have so many people that are already interested in disaster classes. So then they see nutrition right along with that. And so we're pretty much just tapping into the success of other programs. And then, yeah, you can go ahead to the next one. So what made it successful? I think enthusiasm is the main thing. Obviously, every presenter has a different style. Some people do it very kind of like a professional classroom setting. Our presenters, Christian and Ray, are not like that at all. They are just very kind of, they're great at establishing rapport with the audience, just kind of just keeping it like a really relaxed environment. And I think that style translates really well into doing it online because you need to have that extra engagement, extra excitement, kind of cracking jokes here and there, asking the audience different questions throughout the course of the lesson. And so I think just their natural personalities being super engaging and enthusiastic, I think they just kind of kick that up a notch, and that helped them be really successful in these classes. And the lesson learned, this mainly came from our first one where we got quite a bit of criticism. We got a lot of really positive feedback, but then we also got a lot of criticism. And I think that's just the nature of doing things online. People feel a lot of freedom to just speak their minds, say what they want, things that they wouldn't say in real life. And so, we got people on there like, hey, are they really 6 feet apart? And it's like, no, they were probably 5.5 feet apart, in that one shot. Or no, they weren't wearing gloves because it's the 2 of them making a meal for themselves. And so really, like, people are going to give that kind of feedback and just rolling with it, addressing it when appropriate. So in the videos, they would address, here's why we're not using gloves right now, but if you're cooking for other people, we recommend using gloves, and things like that. So being able to just take that criticism, brush some of it off, address some of it, and then just kind of roll with it. So I think, sorry, I went through that kind of fast, but I think that's all the slides for our program. So hopefully that gives some ideas.
Great. Thanks so much for sharing your story, Jocelyn. I love the lesson about staying positive. That was one thing that made me really nervous about publishing something online. People can be so mean, but don't let it discourage you. And we had a similar focus too on planning, more on content and logistics and less on marketing, but that came after. So does anyone have any questions for Jocelyn? Please use the Q&A feature so we don't miss any.
There's a question that came in through Q&A about the prizes, Jocelyn. So what kind of prizes did you offer to raffle off for the participants?
So they made up some goodie bags just with some different things, honestly, we had laying around the office. So it was like a CalFresh Healthy Living water bottle, an insulated lunch box bag thing. We had gotten a donation of some really good quality olive oil, so we threw that in there. I think we had like some spatulas. So it was pretty random. It was just what we had sitting in the office. But there was enough stuff that people saw and like, oh, this looks like this looks pretty good. There's quite a bit in here. That definitely helped us.
There's a couple other questions, but let's move on to Danielle, and then we'll see how many of those questions are for both. and tackle them at the end.
Yes, okay. We're a little behind, so if you do have to go at 10:45, please do so. So since Danielle and I worked together on this project, this next project, we're going to tag team the presentation. So Danielle, why don't you kick us off and cue me when you want to move on to the next slide.
Great, thank you, Anna. Hi, everyone. So I'm a program manager at Fresh Approach. We, if you don't know, are a Bay Area nonprofit organization working in food access and local food systems, as well as education on gardening and nutrition. Go to the next slide. So as mentioned already today, what we're going to be talking about is our Stay Healthy and Waste Less curriculum, which was developed by Fresh Approach and Leah's Pantry and funded by the San Mateo County Office of Sustainability. I also wanted to quickly mention that Fresh Approach did do an additional virtual class, which is our VeggieRx Nutrition series via Zoom. And I'm not going to talk too much about that. It was just kind of a one-time pilot. And that was because we had a group of participants that had met in person one time right before shelter in place. So we wanted to keep them engaged, and we did a series of Zoom calls. I'm happy to answer questions about our experience if anyone has those. But this presentation is going to focus on the Stay Healthy and Waste Less classes. So those were each around 15 to 20 minutes. They were pre-recorded videos that we posted on both Instagram TV and YouTube. Go to the next slide. So for planning these classes, we wanted to be really intentional with transitioning from in-person classes to a virtual format and try to make it like as community driven as possible. So we developed a brief survey to share with community partners that they then shared out with their participants, so we could get some feedback from folks on what platform would be ideal, the languages they would want materials in, the content of the classes. We did have a set curriculum, but we wanted to be flexible and understand that folks' needs or interests may be a little bit different due to COVID. We also, asked if they were comfortable entering their address so that we could mail them our farmers market vouchers as an incentive for participating. And then we asked questions about access to technology and best times of day for this type of video. Go to the next slide. So here's a little bit of the results. We asked, how likely are you to use any of the following for connecting with this project? And the orange is very likely. So most people said they were very likely to engage with a YouTube video. Kind of, as has already been talked about, watching a pre-recorded video seemed to be more accessible in this like initial feedback that we got from folks. The blue bar is not likely. So the ones that were least likely was like Instagram Live. And then the others were somewhere in the middle. Next slide. And then this is some feedback on the content of what folks were interested in. So we got a lot of folks interested in help with home cooking and recipe ideas. And then a good number were also interested in freezing, food storage, and food preservation, which fit right into our curriculum. So that was great. Go to the next slide, Anna. So to sum up from our planning, we did see that YouTube or pre-recorded videos were preferred over live sessions. So we decided to, do pre-recorded videos initially, and we posted those on YouTube. We also posted on Instagram TV, and those, were available at any time. Folks didn't have to tune in live, and so we could share a link directly to that. Folks were also comfortable sharing their mailing address with us, the vast majority. So we were able to still mail folks farmers market vouchers for participating. We had them fill out a brief survey after watching one of the videos so that we could collect, some information about what they learned and collect their address and mail them those vouchers. We also want to acknowledge that the sample size from this initial survey was pretty small. So it may not be representative of all the folks that we are trying to reach in our virtual classes. So we kind of took some of the results with a grain of salt, but at the same time, it was helpful to have some information and kind of see which content ideas and which formats really like bubbled to the top of what folks were most interested in. Go to the next slide, Anna.
Okay, great. Thanks for kicking us off, Danielle. I do want to acknowledge it is past 10:45, so if you do have to go, please do so. So our marketing strategies include ones I mentioned earlier. We leveraged our newsletters, websites, and social media and connected with strategic partners. We curated very colorful messages and pictures that market the incentives. And San Mateo County Office of Sustainability, who also funds this virtual programming, was also very supportive and shared within their network. And in return, we advertised their programs. We learned that social media viewers, however, were not our target audience. From our survey responses, we noticed very few people heard about classes from social media, but a majority heard from websites, emails, or newsletters from partner organizations. And a handful also heard from family, friends, or colleagues. What made implementation successful is something I also mentioned before: solid relationships. Solid relationships with partners allowed us to collaborate easily and direct marketing to our target audience. One big lesson I learned from planning and filming classes is it took a lot more time than anticipated. I was up way too late working on our pilot, but learned later and planned for that the next time. Second, collecting participant feedback is important to inform future classes. This ensures the program is community driven. And we designed our virtual ed in response to what participants wanted to learn, and those are the participants who returned to watch. Lastly, viewers were very engaged and were learning. So here are a few quotes we took from our survey responses. We were very happy to hear viewers were enjoying the ideas, discovering new recipes like a frittata, or how to use more of the broccoli plant, or a banana sorbet I demoed, and we're also planning to try them out. So that is the end of our partner story. Does anyone have any questions for Danielle and me? Do we have extra time for Q&A, or should we wrap things up?
I think we can stay on a few more minutes if people want to. I saw this question come up twice. So how long did it take from creating the program to actually launching it? So in other words, how much time did you take to plan for the virtual ed? And remember to post your questions in the Q&A just so we don't miss them, as opposed to the chat box.
Ooh, that's a good one. I think so starting from the beginning, we sent out the survey to collect feedback on, what kind of devices people had, the access to internet, things they wanted to learn. I think maybe we gave it a week to collect responses. Correct me if I'm wrong, Danielle, from Fresh Approach. And then we started to and then I think I gave it, so we reviewed the responses together, and I think within that next week, I planned the pilot video. So within 2 weeks of collecting feedback and also planning and filming, we moved fast. But yeah, does that timeline sound right to you, Danielle? And Adrian, you can chime in too.
Yeah, I think that's about right, Anna. It was pretty fast to get the first kind of pilot video up there, and then I would say, we were putting out videos at like a little bit of a slower pace in the beginning, and then it just picked up as we got more comfortable with the process.
Yeah, we did want to see what the feedback was like from that pilot. And then, once we got comfortable and heard what participants wanted to learn, we planned future classes on what people wanted to learn next. So we created a more regular schedule after that, and posting weekly classes. I hope that answered the question.
And people also asked what curriculum, I think they're asking about what curriculum Danielle used. So you use the Food Smarts for food waste. And then also what curriculum did you use for your Veggie RX program? I'm not sure what the participant is asking about, which one it's coming from.
Yeah, so yeah, we did use Food Smarts for food waste, which is primarily what we were talking about. Our Veggie RX curriculum is an internal curriculum developed by Fresh Approach. It's not a SNAP-Ed approved curriculum.
There's a question here. Anna, how many people were you able to reach for the first pilot? Did you have their phone numbers and or emails?
Oh, great question. I think we had nearly 100 views on our pilot, and we were able to collect phone numbers and emails for those viewers who were willing to share it. So in our survey responses, we did ask for contact information, but it was optional to put your phone and email. Is that right, Danielle? I don't think we made it necessary. But we did make it necessary for people to share their addresses. That way we could send them vouchers. But it was optional to share their phone number and email.
Yeah.
But it's really useful because that way, if you collect their email, you can send them a schedule of like future classes, like, hey, thanks for watching our class. Here's another one. Or, you know, share it with a friend. So it's good to keep that information and collect that data.
I think it's also interesting if we see, you know, folks that are really engaging over and over again with the virtual classes and watching those videos, and we do have their contact information, we could kind of pull a class together from that pool to do something that's maybe live or over Zoom or more interactive.
Okay, I think what we can do, since it is 10:53, we can follow up with any questions that we haven't answered. Otherwise, special thanks to both Danielle and Jocelyn, and thanks to all of you for joining us today, and we hope to see you next week for the implementation webinar. Thank you so much. Have a great day.